Okay, Denny Hamlin is joining us. Denny drives the number 11 FedEx Office Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing. And Denny, just talk about, maybe give us an update or how you're feeling and what your outlook is here for this weekend at Daytona.
Lucky that, we are at Daytona in the sense of, as important as practices are for the Cup Series at this track, they're not as important. And, basically it's just any other racetrack, I definitely would be on track at this point. But, I've made such decent to good progress through this week that, you don't want to give that up by getting in a wreck and then jeopardizing being able to start the Cup race. So, we decided to sit everything out until I'm absolutely needed, and we'll take it from there.
We'll take some questions for Denny. If you have one, raise your hand. Let's go with Jenna, Jeff, and then Dwight.
Jennifer, AP. Denny, what's wrong with your back, and how did this happen, and what are you doing to treat it?
There's a few things. There's some torn disc. There's some bulging disc. There's a lot of different things that's just happened over time, and it's just gotten progressively worse. And I noticed Kentucky's not the smoothest of racetracks that we've gone to, and with our aggressive setups nowadays, it evidently took its toll on us. And the next day it just I got real tight by the end of the day, and then sat down for dinner and then couldn't get up. So it just I've had a history of back spasms now for probably 4 years, and it just flared up again. This is about as bad as it was at its worst in 2008 or so. And so, I'm just now starting to get mobile again and being able to get around. So we don't want to set any of that back by, sitting down any longer than I have to.
The other part was, what are you doing to treat it? But then, is the golf and basketball that you play, and you seem to play regularly, I don't know, daily, but could that be making this stuff flare up?
It very well could. I mean, there's always a chance of that, but those are things that I work really hard at to try to stretch. And there's some reasons why it's happening and getting worse. Even before I picked up golf and basketball, in really around 2008, I'd had this problem. So I don't directly link it to that, but to treat it, we're just doing a lot of ice and stem and rehab and stuff like that I'm going to have to continue to do for a while. But obviously, having a couple of needles in my spine this morning is not the best feeling. So it's good that I can get a day off.
Let's go with Jeff Gluck, Dwight, and Bob Pockers.
Jeff Gluck from SBNation.com. So in regard to the basketball and the golf, do you feel like you're going to have to cut back on that or stop that at some point to heal the back?
Yeah, for a little while. I'll definitely have to tame it down. And, the goal right now is to get everything stronger first before I go back to doing those things. I think that probably by Monday I'll be back to where I was before these spasms started hitting. And then from that point on, next week I'll start doing stuff to start strengthening, similar to, when we had the torn ACL. When you come back, you rehab to get stronger so it doesn't happen again. We'll do those same things as with the back starting next week.
What kind of process as far as, what kind of process, like, as far as the total rehab package, months or whatever, how long does it take to, I guess, strengthen the back to get to a point where they're happy with it?
It's all going to be based off of my feel, really. I think that, I really feel like by, say, Monday or Tuesday, I'll feel exactly the way I was before last week. So from that point on, it's just going to, I've always had back pain. Unfortunately, I inherited it from my dad. It's one of the bad qualities I did get from him. But it's just one of those things where I'll just have to, anytime I play any activity, it doesn't matter what it is, even if I go for a run, I've always had back problems afterwards, stiffness and things like that. So it'll be just, kind of touch and feel from that point on of when things start feeling well for me, then I'll know I've reached kind of where I want to be.
Let's go Dwight, Bob, Don, and Jim.
Dwight Drum, RaceTape.com. Denny, as far as that, there have been 12 different winners and 17 races. Did you foresee that coming into this year? And how does that play a role in your strategy, your outlook when you race?
Well, it would make it difficult, if you're outside the top 10 to get a chase position, because it looks like you're going to have to be in the top 13 or 14 in points to do it. So you're basically going to have the 12 best drivers in there anyway. But it's just luckily we're in a decent position where we have some little bit of a gap over 11th place. But with all those different winners, it just tells you that, to me, it tells you that the drivers and the cars are all so equal now that it's all about who just gets out front and can go. I feel like there hasn't been as much passing here in the last few weeks, due to the harder tires that we've had to change to, that Goodyear's working on. But as soon as we find some good combinations like we had at Michigan before they started blistering, I felt like you're going to have a better race as far as non-track position type racing. So right now, I think it's just anyone who puts himself in the right strategy's got a chance to win, as long as you got a car with decent speed. So that's why I think you've seen so many different winners.
Let's go to Bob. We'll go to Don Coble, Jim, Buddy, and Reed.
Bob Hucker, Sporting News. Is this something you'll eventually need surgery for? And are you not in the car just because it's just a pain tolerance thing, or is there concern that you wouldn't be able to work the pedals? I mean, is it such like violent twitching and stuff that you're concerned about that as well?
No, it's just with spasms. I think everyone in this room's had spasms on something in the course of their life. Anything can set it off, and obviously, the most risk of having an accident in practice would be on a super speedway, and the likelihood of me getting in an accident in a nationwide race would be fairly high as well. And those are all things that could trigger me going backwards from everything I've gained this week. So that's the reason. It's just, you're not going to, 9 times out of 10, the best you're going to be is the way you unloaded anyway. So we're confident in what we had in February will be fine for Saturday night. And we just wanted to minimize risk. That's all. Years down the road, he said, what we're trying to cover up is basically just stuff that can be helped with just training and things like that. So a lot of people have, problems with their disc, and they live with it every day, and there's no problem. I'm just going to do, more physical therapy to specifically work on that, because I really haven't in my training regimen that much here lately worked on back issues. So now we're going to shift that focus to that.
Let's go to Don, excuse me, Don, Jim, and Buddy.
Don Coble with the Florida Times Union. Denny, if you're going to have back spasms and you need to set out some practice, I mean, is that, you mentioned it earlier as you came in, that this was a good place to, what makes this so easy to not practice, and why do so many teams skip the second practice?
Yeah, I mean, you almost look at the schedule, and unless there's a major rule change, you could pretty much just line up about a 30-minute practice for all divisions, and everyone would be fine with it. But obviously, there's a TV factor and things like that to it. But you want to keep all the schedules the same no matter what the track. I'm sure some people are on different agendas, but nowadays everyone's just trying to minimize their risk. They want to race the car that they unload as a primary, and the more you're out there, the more chance there is that you're not going to do that, especially on a track where you're running so close to each other. So I think that it's everyone nowadays, you probably won't see 20 cars or so run the final practice of Cup, just because it's, you got what you got. And so, that's the fortunate part of our 11 team this weekend is, given the circumstances of myself, that we're somewhere like here, not like a track where you'll be tuning on the setup like a mile and a half.
Let's go to Jim, Buddy, and Reed.
Jim Noble, ESPN. Do you have to start taking a long, hard look at your nationwide series participation with the back issues, with, I guess, anything that adds more pounding to the back on a race weekend is something that you'll have to think about going forward?
I never really was affected until Kentucky. I thought everything was fine. And then, it just seemed like that track and the surface and things like that is just, it's tough, especially when you run an aggressive setup. And so it's I'm assuming that that's kind of what set things off, because I've run probably 7 nationwide races this year and not had an issue, and actually felt okay for Cup. Until this, unless this rears its ugly head again, I wouldn't change anything. I want to continue to run as many nationwide races as I can.
Let's go to Buddy, Shacklet, and Reed, Spencer.
Hey, Denny, Buddy Shacklet, the Daytona Beach News Journal back here in the back. Notwithstanding your personal situation, why do you feel that more and more Cup guys are running less nationwide races? Do you think it has to do with the Selecta Series, or just the economy and not being as much money out there, or they just don't want to do it as much anymore, or just, now more guys running for a nationwide title?
Yeah, I think that it takes a little focus away from the Cup, although the adjustments and things you do to your car will transfer over to the Cup Series. It's not as big of a benefit anymore. I think the sponsorship is a little bit harder to find, and that cuts out some of the Cup drivers. And really, I've run as many races as I have sponsors for. So, if we had sponsors for 25 races, I'm sure I'd be running that many. But it's just sponsorship's a little bit harder to come by, is what I think it is. And of course, the points thing also. You had some Cup guys running for nationwide points, and now that's eliminated. So there's really, other than you're racing for a trophy, there's really not much that you're going out there on Saturday for.
Go Reed, Marty, and we'll end with Jeff Gluck.
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire Service. Got 3 short ones. First of all, 3 years ago, Jeff Gordon had some pretty serious back issues, so I was wondering if you had talked to him at all, since he's made pretty good recovery since then. Secondly, having just signed an extension, are you insured for this sort of thing? And on Saturday night, will you have a relief driver?
I don't plan on having a relief driver. I think that if something were to happen and I didn't feel well, there'd be somebody around that could help. But don't plan on having anyone. I do plan on starting, and really, I could probably do it today if I had to. But of course, it's not race day, so I'm gonna have 2 more days before I really have to get in and go. I haven't talked to Jeff about it. I don't know what specific issues he had with his back, but I know he fought it for a long time. But we really know now what's going on after getting an MRI and looking at everything, exactly what's going on. So now we know how to treat it. This is something that I just kind of let go away in 2008 or whenever it happened the first time. So now that we have diagnosed it, that we can make it better. So I anticipate this really won't happen again. And as far as insuring a problem like this, we have stuff in place to help out when stuff like this happens.
Okay, we'll go Marty and then end with Jeff Gluck.
Marty Smith, ESPN, about your contract extension. How much thought was there, if any, to testing the market or going somewhere else, and why was Joe Gibbs the right place to stay?
Well, Gibbs has been extremely generous to me in a lot of different ways. They've just they gave me my start. They've bent over backwards for me in a lot of different ways, and really have helped me and put me with a great team. And really, when you look at where can you go and improve the seat that you're in, there just isn't any out there that you would want to even consider. I feel like I'm with a championship caliber team, obviously a championship crew chief, and we've only been beat once by a JGR driver in points since I've been there. So I feel like however Gibbs is capable of running is where we'll run, and I feel like that we have championship caliber cars, and any move that you make over money or something like that will eventually catch up to you. And so my thoughts was always to stay with Gibbs, and I've got such a great relationship with everyone at FedEx that we've just got a good thing going right now. And so you don't want to test the waters and end up shooting yourself in the foot, because there's very few both sponsors and teams out there that have the relationship with their driver that I feel like we have.
Final question. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, the topic that people have been talking about today a lot seems like Burton Smith's comments about putting mandatory cautions in the middle of races that seem to be kind of long green flag runs at times. What do you think about that concept? Would you be in favor of that, or are you against that?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, it's 50-50 on whether you want like stuff like that, but I'm more in favor of the green flag runs. It allows us at least to be the drivers to be in control of their tire wear, to manage their equipment and car. I think when you have mandatory cautions, what can happen is everyone just drives it, as hard as they can every single lap, there's no disadvantage to wearing out your equipment, and that takes the driver out of this equation even more. When you have long green flag runs, typically setups and drivers make up the difference on long runs, the better drivers and the better cars, and then that's when you'll see the passing. But I think that it really could be dangerous for these car owners and things like that if you had mandatory cautions. You'd end up having more fluke winners and more fluke champions when it's all said and done.
Denny, we hope you get to feeling better, and good luck Saturday night here at Daytona.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Taking no dunking today. No dunking.